Okay, you ready?
I am.
All right, so we should be live now, as you should see that. I always do this. I never change my name. All right, so we should be live. As people start to come in, looks like it's opening up on my computer. And if people, as they come in, can just let us know that they can hear us and see us, and everything's going okay. Um, that would be great. So I'm here, and we'll, because I think people kind of filter in. Maybe I'll try like resetting the room a few times. It's something something new that I'm going to try in these types of things, where we don't just introduce you in the beginning, but kind of periodically throughout. But to start, I'm here with Zach. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm looking forward to just like hanging out and talking. And tonight we're going to try and answer for the people, and really we're just going to give our opinions and experiences on this question, to hopefully have like an interesting, entertaining, maybe debate at times, maybe just discussion on should you be investing your money into modern Pokemon. And I think when we try to break down that question, we're going to be looking at it from a financial perspective, but I think we can also be a little softer with the word investment, and we can say, like, even if it's not like the best investments, like, how much do you like this stuff? How happy does it make you to have PSA graded modern cards, sealed, modern? And so maybe you don't need the best returns for it to still be like a really, good investment of your money, because you're also getting a lot of entertainment and joy and those types of things. So we're gonna discuss all of that. But before we jump in, if you could just introduce yourself a little bit, Zach, and maybe talk a little bit about your YouTube channel and the type of content you're making, and a little bit about maybe your, when you got into the hobby and your experiences so far, if you could.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks again for having me on. I'm looking forward to this, just like hopefully everyone else. Yeah, like you said, again, my name's Zach. So, channel, just like in the name, I think here for you guys on Zoom, but Captain Zach Sparrow, you can find me there. Hopefully, I'll show up somewhere in the description at some point. We're mainly talking about modern on the channel right now. We're looking at it similar to this channel as well from a financial point of view. Hey, what's the quote best investment for this, or how much money should I allocate toward this? So trying to answer that as good as we can, looking at past performance on certain items and sets, and comparing to that to all sorts of different Pokemon products. So that's kind of what we're talking about on the channel. Just started up a few months ago, so pretty new there. When I got into the hobby was intermittent as I was growing up and going through the hobby, just like I'm sure a lot of you people who are viewing are as well. So did not invest or play the game back when it first came out, actually, as I was a kid during that time, and I was also homeschooled. My parents were actually very conservative growing up, so I did not do any of the Harry Potter stuff or the Lord of the Rings stuff or Pokemon stuff. I was aware of it. I liked the stuff. I played with it with my friends and stuff, just didn't put a lot of time into it. I was definitely put more into sports and dancing and all these other crazy things. So I feel like this is almost like an interview at this point, a little bit about me section. But just to give you guys a background, since I'm starting to get questions more like that now. Um, Got in during the Pokemon Go craze, so a handful of years ago at this point, and stuck with it ever since. Absolutely loved it, loved the game, loved everything about it. I like leveling things up, I like the idea of Pokemon, I like investing, I like cards, so that's what brought me in, that's what roped me in. Was a stockbroker for like 5-ish years, was a financial advisor for a little over a year after that, started my own practice. After the 2020 wave hit, we'll call it, I decided to abandon all of that for various reasons. Had to move, got married, all of those fun things, and now I do nothing of the sort. I'm an SEO engineer and I love what I do. Make a fraction of what I made before, but I'm infinitely more happy now, and I have so much more time on my hands too, believe it or not trading stocks 12 hours every day. And yeah, just gonna make videos for you guys. So that was a lot, but yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks, man. So tell me a little bit about, before we jump into our topic today, just sort of like just so that our audience can get a sense of kind of like who you are and where you're coming from, just like what your goals are in the Pokemon space? Like, are you trying to build a certain type of collection? Do you have preferences? Like, do you find yourself really wanting to build a big vintage collection, a big modern collection, a little bit of everything? Do you like sealed? Do you like graded? Even just, are you a collector or flipper, investor, business, all of the above? Just so we can kind of get a sense of, yeah, what brought you to doing all this.
Yeah, so I guess I'm a lot of those things. I'm most of those things. So like I said, I did play Pokemon Go. I still play every now and then, mainly just when I'm bored now. I do play the TCG online, not super often. I'm not very good. I know how to play though. I know the gist of it. Definitely a huge fan of sealed product, and if you look on the channel, that's the majority of my content as well. So love sealed product, love English, Japanese. That's primarily what I focus on right now. As far as graded slabs go, yes, I have graded slabs, sent stuff into PSA, CGC, all the nice little card shops there. But yeah, I'm trying to think if I have like a focus on one or the other. As far as investing goes, it's tricky, right? Because it's subjective as far as what you think is going to give you the best return on your investment. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about, I guess. So that gets very complex very quick. So as far as investing goes, yes, I think modern's a great pickup, but I also think vintage is a great pickup. There's a time and a place for everything. Depends what your buy-in is at, and a bunch of things as well. So I really like sealed product. I really like vintage, and I really like Japanese. So I know it's kind of vague, but hopefully that makes sense.
So, so let's jump into our topic for tonight. So, should you invest your money into modern Pokemon? What do you think, Zach?
So I say definitely, hands down. Yeah, so I'll take that stance right away. I think you definitely
Okay.
should. I don't know how much you want me to elaborate up front right away, but if you want a short answer, I say yes.
Yeah, I mean, I could help, break it down into some categories if you want to start. There are a lot of ways to take it. But yeah, I'd love to just hear. Why don't you just kind of, you know, go on a ramble or a rant or a very coherent statement, however it comes out on why you answer it as yes, or why you feel bullish on investing in modern.
Yeah. So where to begin with that? So one thing that if anyone who's seen my channel, I'm going to be preaching this probably until I die, would be past performance is not indicative of future results, but I would argue that it is. Anytime you look at any old product, we're talking about Pokemon here specifically, if you can name me a group of sets that didn't perform up to this date, after a certain period of time, of course, you can always look at a set over a short period of time and say, well, it actually didn't move during this period. But if we're talking a little bit mid to long term, show me a set where it did not perform, where you had some return. Crimson Invasion, Steam Siege, black and white base set, all of these crappier sets, I mean, even they grow over a period of time. Was that the wisest place to park your money? Objectively, no, but it still grew during that time period. Do I see Pokemon, the franchise, the $100 billion franchise, do I see that changing or disappearing drastically in the next 5 to 10 years? My answer to that would be no. Thus, I think modern's a good, safe play. Now, do I think there could be better opportunities to park money? Certainly. But do I think that it could be advantageous for you to put some money into modern? Definitely. So hopefully that gets things started.
Do you think all modern booster boxes? Because you said that so we're at a point in Pokemon history where if you look at any past booster box, it's going for more than it did when it came out, right? And you and I, can both agree that that's very clear. With some only being at like, minus battle styles, which is still, above. I mean, people who are getting it at $76 a booster box and have distributor connections and are getting hundreds of them. If they can get off their product at $99, which is a bit difficult, there are lots and lots of people trying to still get off their product at $99. So though I also see a lot of people wanting to buy and invest in it. And so it's an interesting sort of game to see how much product is going to be out there and how long it's going to take to eat that up. Or if interest just wanes on that set. It's an interesting set, I think, to talk about in this conversation, to see what's going on and compare and contrast it to, what happened with like Vivid Voltage, and compare and contrast it to what's happening so far with Evolving Skies. I think is all interesting. But I guess my question to you is your stance that all modern Pokemon sets, no matter which booster box you're going to buy, as long as you buy at around, I mean, the vast majority of people cannot get distributor prices, right? So part of the issue is that people aren't getting these booster boxes at $76, $82, the average person watching this channel. But let's say that you could get it for what do you think? 90, not to 100.
100, yeah.
Evolving Skies, obviously you can't get it for that. You have to buy it 120. So we can talk specifically. Do you feel like that's a good buy? But let's say that, these lesser sets, maybe, or less popular sets like Battle Styles, which has some alternative arts and some chase cards with the birds. It's not a set that there aren't any cards in it that people are interested in. Will that set be in a year, 2 years, 3 years? Will that set, go up enough in value? Do you think that remember, we're talking about the average person who doesn't own a business, who can sell straight to consumer or at a higher level than eBay. We're talking about people who are probably going to end up selling on eBay, have to pay the 10% fee, have to pay shipping, probably are paying sales tax to originally get the box. And so they're actually probably, if they're buying it at $100, they're actually paying $106 to $110, right? And then on the other side, we're talking about the shipping fee. So if they sell it at, it would need to get to like 140 maybe, or 150 to really start to see even tiny bits of gains. And then is that really worth it after that amount of time? So maybe it really needs to get, for that type of person, to get to 160, 170. And then they're making maybe, $20, $30 after holding it for 3-4 years and quite a bit of work on a set like that. Now, do you think it's going to get to 140, 150, 160? Do you think it's going to get to 300 in 3-4 years? And what would it need to get to for you to consider it just personally as like a good investment or something that you would invest in? And then how much of that would you buy? Would you suggest buying, and for you specifically, like how much do you want to buy, or do you avoid that type of set, and go to other things? Just let's start the conversation there and we'll go for it. And then, to be fair, I will share a little bit, I think, in response of my overall take on modern, just because I am definitely not anti-investing in modern or buying modern, but it depends what we mean by investment. And it depends. Yeah, there are a lot of qualifications within that. And we can get into that, but go ahead.
So if I fully knew the answer to your question, these shelves would just be lined with cases of Battle Styles. So I'll headline that up front. Don't know the answer to that. So what do I think? I think short-ish term, we're talking 1, 2-ish, maybe even the third year mark. I don't think Battle Styles is like the no-brainer play or the safe bet or something that I personally would want to put a lot of money into. Could I be wrong on that? Absolutely. Do I think from past performance of certain sets, how this set was received, it was a print to demand set?
I'm listening to you. There's some really loud noise outside. Let me just check to see what's going on. I apologize. Keep talking to the audience.
Hey, Jake is okay. But yeah, so that's kind of a loaded question, right, guys? So
I apologize. Someone was shooting some turkeys or something outside, or like shooting guns off. I'm not in a city though. I'm in the countryside where there is hunting. So
that's awesome. Well, hopefully everything's good there, but
it's very loud. Okay, I apologize. Keep going. Where were you? Keep going.
Yeah, no. So short answer is I don't think it's the best place to park your money. Not short term. Mid-term, potentially, I definitely could see growth there, but the answer, I guess, was like short term, like 1 to 3-ish years, plus or minus. No, I wouldn't expect some good, especially if I'm buying booster boxes around the $100 mark after it gets shipped to me, and if I live in a state where I have to pay taxes, and then I have to worry about eBay fees, and then shipping it to someone, and then hope, fingers crossed they don't scam me, and then return it, or whatever the deal. It's not worth it at the end of the day, in my opinion. If I pick up a handful of booster boxes at even $95 a booster box, and I'm able to flip them, even at that point in a year or two for $150, to me, that's not worth it. I could think of, in my opinion, there are plenty of other better investments or vehicles that I could park my money during that time period. So that's my take on it.
So I think it's fair to say, right, that like you don't know what battle sauce is going to be in a year, 2, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Do you have like a guess? The reason I'm being tough on you on this, and I think probably Zach and I agree on most things, is like when we say like all modern is investable, or like anything you buy is going to go up or you're going to make money, then we want to take some of these like more difficult cases and we want to look at it like, what is it really going to take? And is it a guarantee that it's going to make it there? And how long is it going to take? And what's that going to look like? When we look at like Magic the Gathering, there's sort of a long history of booster boxes. Some of sort of the less popular sets taking 4, 5, 6 years to become profitable, having many years of sort of dead money. Now, Magic's very different than Pokemon. And for me, when I'm studying modern in Pokemon and trying to figure out, like, first of all, what's happened this year, which is clearly just all collectability driven, which is completely different than what's going on in Magic Modern. But I try to understand. So why do Magic booster boxes go up over time? Which ones actually go up over time, and why? And I think the problem and the trap that I think a lot of, and this is where I think you and I will disagree, that a lot of like PokeTubers and just people in the Pokemon space in general are falling for, is like the growth this year and the growth on like all of these products that didn't grow for like 4 years is largely due to this humongous boom. And what would the growth actually have been, if any, if there wasn't this boom? I think there would have been zero still. There were so many of these booster boxes. We're talking like everything back to like Ancient Origins, to XY sets sitting there. It never moved at all. And now there were some that were starting to creep a little bit. Let me think of the XY ones. There was, Flashfire was definitely going up a little more, and was always a little bit higher because of the Charizards. But things like, what's it called? Like Breakpoint and Breakthrough. Those sets were kind of peaking up in like 2018, 2019 just over $100. So like there was a little bit of movement on some sets, but most sets, zero movement, thousands of boxes sitting there for years on eBay. Like that was the type of climate and environment. And then all of a sudden, Vintage blew up, right? This was the order. Vintage blew up, crazy huge in price. Modern didn't really move yet. And then all of a sudden I saw like 1,000 invest in modern YouTube channels, modern, it's great. Things are, and a lot of movement around that product. And I saw a lot of booster box breaking channels start. I saw a lot of grading modern. I saw a lot of investing modern. And, I don't think all of that's caused by the influencers. I think that there were so many new people in the hobby who wanted to open affordable product. And the thing that was affordable was modern. And that's part of why all these things got open and a lot of the prices went up. But that isn't a normal sort of like event that's going to happen every 4 to 5 years, that just we're going to have like 90% more people in the market all of a sudden. So I think the question is, you don't need 90% more people in the market. You don't need these boxes to go from $100 to $700 in 6 months for it to be a good investment, right? Like it could just be that it goes from like 100 to 180 in 5 years. And that's, on a percentage basis, a really, really good investment. You're probably going to beat the stock market, with those types of numbers potentially. But is that type of growth going to happen, for a lot of these products, where in 4 to 5 years, there's going to be enough people who wants these things? And then for my I guess my doubt comes in a few places. One, here are the things that are all different about now than then. There are a lot more people here already, which makes it probably more difficult for a lot more people to explode, to exponentially change the marketplace. There's already a lot more money here. And there's already a lot more money interested in that. There's many more like retail investors, we could say. So people who like just average guys who don't have distributors, who aren't selling in mass, who aren't buying pallets, who have a lot of these boxes, in their houses that are going to look to sell. Right. So those are two things that are going to cause that are good, that are worse for Modern now than was a few years ago, when the only people who had huge amounts were the stores who were unable to sell them. It wasn't, collectors were not holding lots of it, right? It was literally, so now we're gonna have collectors holding lots of it. We're gonna have potentially stores holding a lot of it if Pokemon prints a ton. And so the next category, that I want you to respond to is the amount printed. So is there going to be a humongous amount printed, and way more printed now than there was in the Sun and Moon era? These are questions I don't know, right? We don't know how much they're printing in their first wave. We don't know how much they're going to reprint. All of these things. It's just a lot of questions. And for me, my answer with all that stuff is, if you can get a really strong set at retail pricing, or better yet, like distributor pricing, it's probably, like, I certainly would be buying it right now, even if just to flip it immediately at 120. And I'll just be completely blunt with you guys. Like, if I could get like 200 boxes of Evolving Skies, I would probably immediately sell 150 of them at 120 a box, and I might hold the last 50 and take a chance that there's a decent chance it might go up sometime, with that 4 to 5 year run, even if I think it's going to be printed a lot and reprinted, and it's not going to see the insane, all of a sudden $250 price that Vivid Voltage got to, and all these types of things. So I think that there's a spectrum here of like, and questions of like, should we be investing in every set, which set, and at what price point? So let me give you a second to respond to all of that ramble.
Yeah.
And then we'll kind of continue from there.
There's a lot to unpack there. No, I like it. I agree with, I would say, most of that. So what would you like me to address first? There were a few things there
So
that you...
I think, to try and summarize it, I think that my biggest concerns in expecting growth, or making some case that, like, as you made, which I like, that to me is like, you don't need to make that strong of a case. And that case to me is not a very good case. The case of like, past results are going to be repeatable, right? Like that to me, like the situation is so different and so much worse now. There's one other thing I haven't said yet, which is the prices of the PSA cards. So a lot of the reasons, for example, that Evolutions went up to 700 was because of the value of the graded cards inside. And so people were doing all these breaks and paying all this money, because if you got 10s and you got high grades, you could actually make your money back. So there was also very high expected value on all of these things, right? Whereas in Magic, there's a history of expected value being low, but booster box is going up anyway. In Pokemon, we haven't experienced, is that going to be true? And in Magic, it probably happens because there are collectors, there are players opening these boxes to draft and to relive old sets. In Pokemon, they're collectors and they can already get the PSA 10, PSA 9 graded cards for much cheaper. So are they going to be breaking open these boxes, reliving them as much as in Magic? And in Magic, the margins are so small, you don't make very much holding those boxes. Why in Pokemon is it going to be bigger? And if so many more people in Pokemon are doing it than in Magic, those are all risks for why it may not work. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think anyone who is investing in Pokemon or any TCG, I would encourage you to look at other TCG markets, just like what Jake is bringing up here, because you can learn so much from it and understand, okay, well, why does Magic, in a way, kind of cyclically, you can expect those returns. Some sets are going to be bummers, and you can't expect that, but why can you see that more regularly? Like, you can see that. It's just like a cog. So to kind of answer that question there, yes, we had a crazy year last year, right? And even turning into this year. So how I attack that thought process is, whenever we had to analyze a stock, whenever we had to analyze whatever basket, anything, there were a couple of things you had to look at. One of the biggest, let's say basket, without giving too much information away. I don't want to get in trouble here, but one of the biggest baskets we had to look at was risk, right? If it's super duper risky, though, there's a different methodology that you have to put into practice there, right? So definitely, Pokemon, it's pretty risky, right? We're talking about a trading card game here. We're talking about one stock. It's the Pokemon IP. So at the end of the day, do I think it's a risky asset? 100%, absolutely. Now, on the flip side of that, there are a few things that were incredibly attractive to me as an outside investor looking in. Jake, I have individual stocks within my own personal IRA that aren't as old as Pokemon. They're not 25 years old. They're not even 20 years old. That are performing fantastic. Now, there are a few things that we have to keep in mind. 2020, we can't expect that to happen every year. That may not happen again for our lifetime. So can we expect that? No. I would not be putting money into this product saying, hey, whenever the next 2020 hits, I'm going to make bank on this. That's not a good game plan. That is not investing. That is gambling, is what that is. But on the flip side of that, it depends where you want to draw your line in the sand. I vividly remember when Pokemon Go came out, well, it's because Pokemon Go, and it's because of the anniversary, it's because of evolutions, it's because of this. And in 2010, they said that. And in 2005, they said that. So it depends where you want to draw your line in the sand of, well, this market happened because of this. In the stock market, what we could regularly say, there will always be that outlier / catalyst. That is not something to depend on, but that is something that you have to expect and put into your future trajectory. Now, whether that actually comes out to play or not, historically it does. Same thing with bull markets, for example, and bear markets. You'll experience, on average, a 10% reset in the market every year. We're talking about the stock market here. Similar trends happen across Pokemon where you'll see just a dip, and that doesn't mean a bear market is occurring. Actually, over 80% of the time, whenever you start to see a dip, over 80% of the time, it's not the start of a bear market. Over 80% of the time, that does not happen. So when we saw that dip earlier, was that a bear market? Potentially, it depends how you want to define a bear market. In the stock market, that is not a bear market. So it depends what you're looking at here, what you're holding up as your two different ends of the spectrum. But to answer the question, do I think that there will be another 2020? No. Do I think that there will realistically be another 2016? Absolutely. It's not really a question as to if, but when. Now, I can't guarantee that. I am not investing expecting a 2016 to fully happen, and I know it's going to happen in 2023 or 2025. However, realistically, historically, we do see these events occur, as well as when you're investing in products like this, you have to expect a $100 billion franchise for that to make waves across pop culture somewhere at some point in time. So when I'm an investor, that's incredibly attractive to me. That's why I put my money into Pokemon and these other TCGs. Now, again, yes, I can't guarantee that. I can't guarantee that any modern product will ever rise again, but I can say, hey, historically, last 25 years, if you would have bought any booster box ever, you would have made money on it if you would have held it over a little period of time. So it depends how granular you want to get on this, and there's always ways you can optimize how you make your money on all of these things.
At the height of the Beanie Baby market, you could have made the same argument. If you had bought any Beanie Baby, it's at the height of the tulip bulb mania. So that's not a good argument, right? That argument actually means nothing. I mean, within the notion that like I can pick one point in time and say everything's at an all-time high. I mean, people will say the same thing in crypto, say the same thing in every market. That's a bit of a warning sign argument, right? Because I actually think you're making some arguments that, and by the way, just for everyone in the chat, Zach and I are friends. We're going to have a heated debate. We like and respect each other. Please, everyone in the chat, equal like and respect to everyone in the chat and to both of us. This is entertainment and is for fun. Okay. And I'm not saying anyone say anything negative, but I just want to throw that out there. So I think two things. One, I think that argument, right there, that argument doesn't hold weight to what's going to happen in the future and isn't that useful. And in fact, is it an argument for why you shouldn't put money in a market when everything is sort of at an all-time high, and no matter how frankly, how little you know about a market, you could have just bought anything and you're making money. That's usually a sign of a bubble and a mania. And the fact that there are a bunch of people flocking to something who don't understand something and are looking to strike it rich and have greatly inflated the prices, which is what happened during the Logan Paul bubble, which is why I've seen so many prices go down. It's still definitely happening throughout modern. There are lots of booster boxes and PSA cards. PSA card, and my stance on this channel has always been, generally speaking, I mean, particularly if you can get sealed product, modern product, below MSRP, that is the best investment. It's the safest. when you get into like PSA, buying PSA cards and PSA 10 cards in this environment, and I want to talk about that, there's so many reasons not to be doing that right now, particularly in modern, but also in vintage, outside of things that are very rare. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place, but your point that I forget what I was gonna say in response to your other point. You made 2 points, right? Your one point was that we're at an all-time high, so that no matter where you had bought. What was your other point, Zach? I apologize.
I don't know. I said a lot of stuff. Oh, I mean, you can half expect events to occur. I have some more data.
Oh, right.
I'll
So
let you.
this idea that this is going to be a event that happens again. Thank you. So what I wanted to say about that is that, the reason I put, $100,000 plus into Pokemon 3 years ago, and when I was writing on forums and saying that all this stuff I think is incredibly underrated, and I think that there are lots of reasons to imagine that this is going to explode, was because of my, this pattern that I saw in other collectibles where 30-year-olds like to collect what they had when they were 10. And I combine that with the fact that it was $100 billion, franchise, 5 times the size as Marvel, and cards were the central, collectible within Pokemon, even though merchandise sales and all these types of things were way more. So like money being spent on merchandise, plushies, all this sort of stuff was generating a lot more money than the cards were, even though for our generation, at least around me and in my community, and I think in the United States and evidently all over the world, cards were the most collectible item, similar to how comic books. And so I started and looked at the comic book market, and I compared that to what I thought would happen here. And Pokemon's even bigger than Marvel. So I felt very, very strongly about that. My point being that it's happened already. So the 30-year-olds are in Pokemon. Now there are going to be more 30-year-olds who come into Pokemon, but there are also going to be a lot of 30-year-olds who leave Pokemon for a while or take breaks or come in and out. So what you're looking at, or you're banking on some new event or some new awareness to bring a lot more people in. I'm not sure what that looks like and how it can be as big as either Pokemon Go or this year has been. But I could be wrong about that. There could just be a lot more people who need another movie or another sort of event to be brought in our generation. I think more what you're hoping for is that the demographics look good in the sense that we're going to have more and more money to spend as we get further in our careers, the people who are already here. And multiple generations are going to get in. And I think when we think about maybe kids coming in or different generations entering, there's a lot of risk in that. There's a lot of people who I think are really bullish on modern who make these assumptions that in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, these sets are going to be really important to people. And I think that that's the next place I'd like to take this argument, which is that, I don't see how these sets that we're talking about today, and that's even like Evolving Skies, which I think is a really great set and wonderful set. I'm not sure any of those cards are special to anyone in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And when we study other markets, it's rookie cards, it's first appearances, it's one of ones, it's extreme rarity or scarcity or very unusual different releases that actually stand the test of time from an investment perspective. And all of the other sets and all of the other cards or all of the other comic books or et cetera become fairly worthless, basically worthless. There needs to be something that distinguishes these things. Now, it could be the fact that Pokemon is, alternative arts. It's like the first ever alternative arts, right? And that becomes something that distinguishes that. But I think when you're paying $1,500 for a PSA 10 alternative art today, right now, when PSA is shut down, and the reason you're having to pay such high prices is because there are a ton of those cards out in the world. They just can't get to PSA and back, to lower the market. And you think that's a really strong investment and that people in 20, 30 years are going to be really wanting that. You're paying $1,500 already today for an item like that, which to me is, it absolutely crazy from an investment perspective. I think it makes much more sense to put that $1,500 in a PSA 10 first edition WotC Holo, where the pop report is much more filled out, where it's a first appearance Pokemon, where WotC is always going to be WotC. No matter how many more sets they make, WotC is always going to have a distinct identity. What is going to be the identity of alternative arts in 5, 10, 15, 20 years? What's going to be the identity of Rainbow Rares in 5, 10, 15, 20 years? And then when we go down, what's the identity of your random full art V, like not even shiny card going to be? So I think, and how much supply is there going to be, and how much is going to continue to be open over time? So I think a lot of cold water needs to be poured on certain, and I don't think you're making those arguments necessarily, but and I pour that cold water because I want people to enjoy the hobby and collect those items because they enjoy them, and at least take in my arguments and probably not invest in those types of things. I don't even think people necessarily should be investing in vintage, and that's a whole nother thing. And at this point, I think that it's fine, and I think that if you really like it, there's upside, and there's a decent chance that these items continue to go up in the future. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if they do. I also wouldn't be surprised if they stagnated for a long time, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go down a little more. And so I think that it's 3 years ago, I was the guy in the community. When people would talk to me, I was like incredibly bullish, and then everyone around me seemed to get incredibly bullish, and I became more bearish. And so to me, I think that's my take on all of that. So I'd love to hear your response to those points, if you agree, disagree, if there's any sort of differences. And then I think you could agree with all of those points, and modern might still be investable, right? It doesn't need to be, right? Like, all of those things could be accurate risks, and it could still make sense to invest in certain modern items at certain times, depending on the price point, which is where maybe we want to, because we don't want to, straw man this or put it as like the market needs to go up 10 times in order to buy a little bit of these booster boxes at $120, for it to be a fine investment. So go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, no, all great points. I love hearing different viewpoints. And this is why conversations, everyone who's listening, are super important. Hearing even just slightly different viewpoints, it makes you personally think, maybe I shouldn't put this much money into X product. Maybe I should reconsider this. Maybe I should be a little bit more bearish, or, hey, maybe that wasn't a bad play. Maybe I should double down on this one investment, whatever the case. So these kind of conversations are super healthy. I love this kind of stuff. So to answer some of that, one of the first bits, yes, you could say that about the Beanie Baby market back in the day, or really any collectible that more or less failed throughout the years. However, Beanie Baby market
you could say it about GE, the stock GE, when it was at its height, or you could say it about all of the Japanese companies that were all the top 10 in the world of the S&P 500 before they collapsed. So it's endless. They're endless examples. It doesn't always need to be things that are total bubble or total worthless. But when you just look at, and I'm sorry I interrupt you, but when you just look at, just saying something's at its all-time high, so it's a good investment in the future, that's very dangerous. Right?
Super dangerous. Definitely not looking at the full picture for that. So yes, just for example, any of those markets, Beanie Babies, name your spice, whatever you like there. At the time, any of those collectibles, they weren't ingrained in our culture like Pokemon is, like Magic the Gathering is even now. But Pokemon, what else does it have going for it? The TCG is a small piece of the pie in comparison to everything else. It doesn't have just Beanie Babies. It doesn't have just plushies. It doesn't have just the TCG. It doesn't have just video games. It doesn't have just movies. It doesn't have just TV shows. So that is another reason why I really, 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 really like Pokemon. And
sure,
yes, today's kids, they may or may not like alternate arts, like the new Rayquaza that's coming out right now. That might not be the card 20 years from now. However, what I have seen, and I broke this down partially in some videos, so I'll have to do a bigger breakdown later. You'll see, whether it's Pokemon or Magic the Gathering, I've noticed, the cards within the boxes themselves, and I'm a big sealed investment collector, and that I totally agree with you there. I think a lot of these modern PSA 10, 9, whatever investments are a little sketchy right now. That freaks me out as an investor. However, the sealed product, you'll see, the older a set gets, the more and more detached it gets from the cards that are inside of it. You can look at base set black and white, emerging powers, the chase cards in the sets. You can get them for $50 or less a piece, like numerous copies of them, and the boxes themselves are going for thousands of dollars. You can see that across the board on just about every single set I've looked at, from base set black and white upward. Here's another point I'd like to throw out.
Okay.
You have a question?
Well, it's not, that's so so you made the comment that the further we get out, the more something gets detached from its price point. And that isn't necessarily true. It depends on the set, and it depends, and it has a lot more to do with the rarity of the booster box and the amount of collectability around it at a certain time. Certainly. So for example, like I think it the reason that those like less popular, you got like a Thundress PSA 10, in some of these sets, like the best card is worth like $10 or $15, and yet the box sunk for $1,000, right? You're talking about some of these black and white sets, some X and Y sets, right? Graded, they might be selling $50, $100, but maybe $200 on some, but ungraded, we're talking about. Whereas the booster box is 1,000, 1,500. So this is something that's often talked about in Magic, because they have a much longer time period and horizon to look at, and where you can graph it out and look more that like there's kind of more data and more truth to that. But to me, it's just based on supply and demand. It's that there's just more and more of it gets opened up, and there's just less and less of it. And you have enough sealed collectors in Magic. There are probably sealed collectors too, or you have enough people who want to draft it, right, to continue to open it, which continues to make it rare. I agree with all of that, but I don't think I think I would be careful with the time part, because it's now over time more is likely to be opened, but not necessarily. And this is the other risk in when you see huge jumps up in price, is what does that do to the supply, and are people still going to open them as much, and are we in a huge bull period around this sort of thing right now, right? And so there's a lot of investment, good feelings and all these sorts of things. But then when that turns the other way, does it come down when the expected value is so little? Do people in Pokemon, because a lot of the reason, again, right, why people were busting a lot of this product is to get those PSA 10s. And I also think that to be honest, I think that there's also a lot of just like very uneducated, slightly gambling addict stuff going on, around some of opening these packs on channels and things where they have no idea, and where they weren't told by the booster box breaker that like, you're going to lose a lot of money by opening this, because there's nothing in this that's worth anything, and your odds are extremely small. And it's more kind of like rooting these things on, that's continuing to open some of this product. So that's the type of stuff that worries me. I think in the long run though, I would be there's so much risk in buying those types of product. But if you're making like right now, if you're making the argument that like that Battle Styles one day will be like that, or Evolving Skies will be like that, is that the argument you're making? Like not to buy those Next Destiny Emerging Powers booster boxes right now, but that these booster boxes of today will eventually become that because they'll be opened enough. What do you think?
So yes and no. And back to your point. So I'll disagree with that, just to the point of, time will certainly detach the value from it. And what I mean by that is I'll expand just a little bit. Yes. Can
I give one data point, and then I apologize, I'm interrupting you one more time. So there's 1988 baseball Donruss, $15 for a booster box right now, 1988. And there are countless examples of baseball booster boxes that are 40 years old, 50 years old. There are reprint products that I have of like really expensive cards that are 80 years old, 60 years old. I can buy them for $20. It's not time, it's rarity. It's supply and demand. Now, time can make something have more demand, and time can lead to more rarity, right? Because an item gets older, and so likely more are going to be opened up, and not necessarily. If they are not opened up, there are countless historical examples that I can give where there were too much of a product and not enough was opened up, and so there was an endless amount. Now, maybe in another 40 years, 1998 Donruss could be worth something. There are other issues in that. There aren't good rookies, et cetera, right? But sorry, go ahead, Zach. I apologize.
No. And what I mean by time is it increases the chances for the product to be lost, ruined,
sure.
People.
That we agree with.
That we agree.
So
yes, that is the only point I was trying to bring up with that.
I just wanted to make that point clear, because I hear people make that mistake where they're like, this stuff will be Wizards of the Coast in 20 years and it will be just as rare. No. Just because of time. And it's like, maybe but probably not, for a lot of reasons, but that's why I'm so careful with, and I'm such a student of history of these other card games, to see how product got opened, why it got opened, this type of thing, and why those prices were able to go up, and how much did the company print, and there's a lot of things there. And I just want to say at this point in our conversation, I'm not against investing in modern. So I do think as we work through this conversation, it'd be good for us to also hear about like what we would invest in, specifically, and all that sort of stuff as we go. So what do you think, Zach?
I'm just answering some questions.
Oh, do you want to answer a question?
Oh no, I was just directly talking with. But yeah, like I think you touched on like kind of like where I see like battle styles maybe heading, or like what we expect like 5 or 10 years from now, or
Yeah.
what was that?
So, all right, maybe a good place to take the conversation is, so right now when we think about like investing into modern, what are our options? Right. And maybe it's a good place to look at it. So your options are, you could buy booster boxes that have already gone up quite a bit, let's say to like the $700, $1,000 range, whether we're talking about like, some team up, Unbroken Bonds might be 500, 400. I'm not sure what it is right now. Some of those types of sets, right? Maybe, an Ultra Prism, a Burning Shadow at like 250, 300, Ultra Prism at 400, whatever they're at right now. So you have those types of items that are selling from like 250 to 1,000, Evolutions at around 700 maybe right now. Then you have like your Flash Fire at like, what is it, 2,000 to 3,000 now or something? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that, roughly speaking, right, guys? This is just don't get your feelings hurt if you own this and I'm misquoting it too low. Go to eBay and check to see. But roughly speaking, just to get the landscape. Then you got like maybe Hidden Fates ETBs as a possibility. You got ETBs in general as a possibility. You got Evolutions ETBs as a possibility, which Evolutions ETBs have been a much better buy, very obviously, than the booster boxes for a long time. I think, very strange how much the booster boxes went for versus the ETBs for a while, in part because the ETBs are actually like, yeah, there are quite a bit less of them and they're much better display. I've said for a long time that ETBs to me are just much more displayable, interesting, unique Pokemon pieces. And I could see them being far more collectible and more difficult and more interesting to display and try to get them all in 5, 10, 15, 20 years if I was going to place a bet on something. But all that speculation. You and I might be in agreement on ETBs or when we dive down into things. And I think by the numbers, ETBs have done really well. Certain ETBs, even better than booster boxes. So within that landscape, and then you have battle styles, you have Evolving Skies, you have Viv Voltage, you have some of these more modern sets, you have Chilling Reign, you have Chilling Reign ETBs. What are you buying and why right now within all of that? What are you looking at? Build me a modern portfolio, a speculative modern portfolio, and maybe I'll do the same for you.
Thank you. Yes. All right. Put me in the hot seat now. So, gosh.
We're going to do it. We're going to really do it tonight with a preface that we are not financial advisors. This is entertainment and opinions.
Yes. Yeah, this is cool though. This is why I'm here. So with the headline of no guarantees on anything here, so I'm super apprehensive to put my money in anything English that's printed within the last couple of years, and there's a good reason for that. Anyone who might be new to the scene or unaware would just be supply, number one. Number two, demand. Those two have to work synergistically. But another point is, where was I going with this? So any Sword and Shield set onward right now, if I were to put my money into it, I would have to tell myself, okay, I do not expect a dime out of this between now and the next, 3 to 5 years. Maybe I could expect a little something at that point. If the product is in that reprint zone, in 1 to 2 years after the set comes out, depends on a bunch of variables. I don't like putting my money in product like that because that's just going to increase the potential for downward pressure on that particular set or card or whatever it is I'm parking my money into. So knowing that, talking about modern product, if I had to, for example, I would put it in some of those other sets like you were mentioning if I could have got it at a good price. And when I say good price, that is, number one, it's subjective, but number two, the one thing that I like to keep in mind as an investor, guys, is, and I know a lot of people do not do this, going off of the comments that I see in chats and in forums, would be, what do I expect the percentage increase to be on this item if I buy in at this price? If I buy a $500 ETB, do I expect that ETB to reach $750 or $1,000 for a 50% increase or 100% increase? Or do I expect this Vivid Voltage ETB, for example, to go from $40 to $80 quicker? Then that would objectively be a better investment. Now, one that would be more speculative, potentially, depending on how old the other set was that I bought. Those are things I have to keep in mind when I'm building a modern portfolio. So if I can get it at a great price, and when I mean a great price, personally, if I'm investing in these products and I'm spending hundreds of dollars, you guys have to get in connection either with a distributor or an LGS. You have to do your research. There's plenty of opportunities out there. How many times have you just bought a product off of Amazon or eBay just because it was easy, and you could be saving those dollars elsewhere? I know it's a lot of work. At the end of the day, we're trying to maximize our profits here. And if I have to be careful how I say this, in order to maximize the utility you get out of this, and by utility I mean your happiness, not necessarily a monetary value. In order for you to maximize your happiness, if it makes you happy buying the product on eBay for double MSRP right when it comes out because you want to guarantee you get it and you just want to open it right away and you don't care about the stonks, then that's awesome. You nailed it then, you win. But if we're talking about financially optimizing what you're doing, it gets really tricky. And I would not be buying a lot of product within that reprint window if I'm not flipping. If I am investing for years, I would not want to do that. However, if we're allowed to flip within this modern portfolio, like you said, I think Evolving Skies would be a good pickup. I even think some Chilling Reign booster boxes, I saw several go for comfortably less than $100, even on the secondary market recently. I haven't checked super recent, so don't quote me on that. I like Chilling Reign. Man, Battle Styles is a risky one. I wouldn't touch it. It was a print to demand set. I wouldn't touch Battle Styles like right now, personally. Vivid Voltage, I think, is a fantastic set, so I would put money in Vivid Voltage. And if you move back past there into Darkness Ablaze and Champion's Path, all those things get kind of tricky because then you're thinking about what are the chase cards in the sets. They're not as exciting potentially because of it's Charizard or bust in some people's opinion, but does that make it a bad investment? That's another subjectivity you have to keep in mind. So I don't mean to make this more complex than your question on the surface there, but it does get really complex the more you look at it. So if I had to say, I don't know what, like 3 sets or something, I would definitely pick up Evolving Skies at the best price I could. I would not buy Evolving Skies immediately. Historically, we can relatively expect prices to not crash. We can expect the hype to cool off a couple of months even after a set. I would much rather be patient on the set, see what it does, and even pay a few dollars more per booster box knowing that, hey, we might not see a dip on this product. Then that is what would tell me that would be a decent pickup. So I don't know if that answered your question fully how you wanted me to or not, but that's kind of how I approach it methodically, and I think that might provide more value potentially. I hope.
Yeah, I think that a big reason I don't invest in modern is because I feel like I have an advantage, or sort of my knowledge in vintage and trophies and other sorts of things, my knowledge in grading, my knowledge in being able to have sort of connections to people where I can tend to get good deals, buy large, collections, PSA collections, vintage things in bulk, is because I have no idea what I have no, if someone were to ask me that question, Zach, build me a modern portfolio, I would say no clue. And I feel like I know Pokemon really well. And if I were to answer you honestly, I'd be like, I have no clue. Their Hidden Fates is a great set, but it worries me how many of those cards are being graded. It worries me how much might still be out there. It worries me that they could do more reprints. I think they probably won't because there are some big stores that are starting to hoard it, and that makes me think that they might have insider information that it's not going to be reprinted, which is why they're doing it, that type of stuff. But I have no idea. I have no idea what Battle Styles is going to do. I have no idea what Evolving Skies is going to do. I don't feel like I have enough price history. I think that if you don't have better places to put your money and you want to invest in Pokemon and you're not maybe super experienced in going, because I think vintage is extremely risky, and knowing what to go after and what not to takes just a lot more, I think, time and engagement in the market and memorizing the price history and studying other markets. I think if you just buy every set, maybe you skip Battle Styles because you've heard it's, people don't like it as much, fair enough. But you just buy a booster box of every set and you throw it in a closet and you hope that in 5 years they're all $150 to $160. And there's probably a decent chance they will be. And maybe some of them are 110, maybe some of them are 80, 90, maybe some of them are 300, maybe one or two of them are 300. Maybe Pokemon hits a big dip and you can't really sell any of them really. And there are tons of them and you can barely get out of them. And, it's difficult and you take losses on all of them. And to me, I think all those are possibilities. I think the most likely scenario is probably one of them goes to 300, maybe 200, two to 300. One of them, but the majority of them are in the 100 to 150 range, following kind of like what Magic does. But you run the risk of, but is that investing? That's a short-term 5-year, maybe 6-year, 7-year. What about 10, 15? Then I become even more anti that sort of thing, because I worry about a ceiling on some of these boxes and that nobody really wants these that much as a collection. And it's more the fun and the nostalgia of maybe opening it, or, and then when we start talking about 15, 20 years, if that box isn't 5, 6, 700, you've had money sitting in something for a really long time. It starts to become, what else could you have done with that money and the opportunity lost in something like that? And that's if Pokemon's doing well. That's if Pokemon is strong, in my opinion. It hits those prices. That's my best honest guess, having no idea. And I don't invest in things that I feel like I have no idea what's going to happen. And as much as Rudy just tells me stay the course, and I'll just be completely blunt, and I love Rudy, but he tells people to stay the course, and he quotes how Magic is done and these types of things. 3-4 years ago, he gave up on Pokemon in large part because they weren't moving up, and he just stopped buying, and he stopped buying all modern sets because he didn't think it would go up anymore. Showing that nobody knows what's going to happen, and these things change so quickly. And even people who have been in this 10, 15 years and buy everything, get spooked and then come in and are very bullish. And so I just think for your average person out there, I think it's just so important to get that message that nobody knows what's going to happen with this stuff. And they're not sure things. And the fact that they're sure things, or it's built in that they're sure things, worries me in and of itself, and makes me feel like there's some maybe artificially high prices. The fact that Evolving Skies is 120 right out of the gate, instead of getting it at 80, that booster box, if it gets reprinted and printed a lot, it could come back down to 90, before it gets back up to 140. And if you bought it at 120, you might make zero money, you might lose money after shipping and fees. So I apologize. I talk so much, Zach. I'm really sorry.
No, I love it.
So many ideas.
Whenever I'm recording my videos, that's why they're always 6 to 10 minutes, because I'm nope, it's this and this and this, and I'm done talking about it. But there's so much value in these elongated discussions. So I think this is really good, like you said. I did want to kind of piggyback off of what you said, and another thing to keep in mind for people investing in whatever product, just play with me here for a second. Let's assume you buy a $40 Vivid Voltage GTB, and I don't know, 6 years, 7 years from now, it's $400, $500. Awesome, great. Now, at that point, you have a decision to make. Do you hold on to that box that's been performing excellent for you, or do you sell it now and take that money that you've just accumulated and put it into anything in the world that could potentially net you a bigger increase than whatever you saw from that booster box from the previous years? These are all great questions. I don't have the answer to that for you necessarily. So I say it all the time, but it gets really complex really quick the more you look into this stuff.
Yeah, I think where my passion on these topics come from is just concern for people. And it's just tough because most of the people giving people advice have like huge stakes in this stuff and own tons of it, and their businesses revolve around selling it and continuing to do it. And listen, Rudy is like, I love Rudy. Like, I think he's hilarious and reminds me a lot of like you and Isaac, right? Like, clearly he's like, dude, just has the same types of interests, is so passionate about this, all this sort of stuff. But like, people like that, right, who have made fortunes on this stuff, it isn't necessarily replicable in the next decade. Like, we don't know, right? And we don't know which game, and we don't know if all the games, and we don't know how that's going to happen. And I think that it's very fair to diversify, right? Not financial advisors here, but I think, it's like, well, I want to diversify a little bit in these cases, and I want to diversify a little bit in Magic, and a little bit in Pokemon, and a little bit in DBS, and a little bit in Digimon, and a little bit in, in all these things, a little bit in like some vintage cards, a little bit in sports. I want to have stocks. I want to have real estate. I want to have crypto. I want to have all of these things because there's things I like about all of it. I think that that's reasonable and fine, right? And so I think that probably most people are doing that. Probably most people who are putting a lot of money into this, they're not putting like their entire paychecks just into these types of things. But I do worry, particularly during the mania, when I was seeing people like buy things on credit and people who had just started doing this, I just got this feeling, and I would hear these stories, right, of people who just got themselves into so much hot water on both modern and vintage. And I think that's where like my attitude and my passion comes from. Hopefully over time I will chill out and be able to like have these discussions like calmly. So I appreciate you. I apologize if I was a bit abusive in the discussion or a bit fiery, but that's where like it comes from, is that sort of like protector. Like, I need to like protect people from like the business and from what I think is going on or potentially going on. And the fact that like just my perspective, and I could end up being completely wrong, right? Like, these guys, like someone like Rudy has so much more experience in this and experience in all sorts of different hobbies and has been doing this forever. Right. But it's the certainty, and it worries me. It concerns me. And that sort of mentality concerns me when you're making decisions, because I think it leads to people taking too big of risks. And when you combine that with like the gambling-y addiction element of like buying, because like I have addiction issues within this hobby. Like I'm addicted to, like, I know I'm addicted to buying. I'm addicted to collecting. Like, there are a lot of issues that make it hard for me to make always good financial investing decisions, which is why I like constantly have to keep myself in check. And I'm fundamentally a collector, right? My goal in life is to build a wonderful collection that I really enjoy, and then maybe, give some of it away, sell some of it, give some to charity at some point in my life. Like, that would be great. And I want to, and my other main goal is like to meet people like you, Zach, to have conversations, to just like have a great time. Right. And like be a part of a community that's freaking awesome. And that we're all really passionate about this stuff, and it's just super fun. And we're passionate about finance. We're passionate about all this stuff. Right. And so I think that the amount of growth this year has scared me a lot. And it scared me about the types of people in the hobby. It scared me that people were not coming out and warning people. And I don't know. What do you think of all of that? I guess I tangented in there, but I just want to explain a little bit and to my audience too, where that heat comes from and continues to come from me. And, eventually I think I'll probably calm down and be less on edge when we're talking about investing, but
Yeah, well, I'm not. My channel is a little less philosophical than yours is, but there's so much value there. So we need channels like yours, like Pokenomics, who can talk about, hey guys, by the way, this is incredibly risky. Remember, if you're putting thousands of dollars into this and you only have a couple or thousands of dollars to put into this, and it should maybe kind of be going towards something else in your life, be careful. What are you doing? Like this, we're talking about a trading card game. At the end of the day, I want to make this very clear to anyone who's watching this now. Again, I'm not a financial advisor anymore. Jake's not. We're not condoning that. However, I am maxing out my IRA every single month. I'm not saying that you need to do that. I'm saying I have things in place personally that I feel comfortable with spending extra dollars on top of that into, in my opinion, riskier investments like Pokemon, like sports cards, like whatever it is that you like putting your money into. I would assume a lot of people on this channel like Pokemon. So keep that in mind. Whenever you're trying to put money into an investment, whenever you watch my video or Jake's videos or the live streams, keep that in the back of your mind. If you don't want to invest in this ETB or these sets or these eras, because even if you think financially, hey, that might be a good play, I'm not going to get a lot of value out of that, of seeing that on my shelf, then definitely you might want to pump your brakes there. Do what's best for you. None of us can tell you what's best for you personally. I don't know your personal finances. We can't help you on that. So that's why these discussions are great. And Jake is saying, yeah, there needs to be more people, instead of saying, oh my goodness, this graded in a PSA 10 goes for X amount of dollars, and they don't explain, hey, did you know it's like a 1 in 10,000 chance of getting that PSA 10 for that particular set, or whatever the case. So yeah, there's a lot of misinformation out there too, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like the commenter for MP kind of nails it here, saying like, sounds like you were scared to give advice and for people to lose. Yes. I think that that's fair. And I think that that is something that it's why I wanted to shut down this channel like many times. Like, and people who watched channel for a long time know my feeling on like, it's scary to share opinions when people might listen to you. And it just feels like a big responsibility. And it seems like other people don't, like, they either don't show it, like that worries me too, right? When I watch channels and just how freely people who I know who have been in this hobby not that long, or who like don't talk very deeply about things, or who don't know a lot of the sets or a lot of the history or have studied these other markets, right, freely give opinions on things. And I think the take is like, on that is like, Jake, like your audience has agency and you need to stop babying them, right? Like that would be one side of the argument of like, Jake, like these people are not in a cult. When they listen to those people, they're not like brainwashed and they don't listen to everything they say and take it as gospel. But then I see them take things as gospel that make no sense. And I see people behave in sort of a culty relationship with certain people. And I'm like, but even if it's just like the 5% I'm worried about, it seems to be happening. So that's where I come from, all of that. And I think that listen, I think that it happened a lot in vintage. And I talked a lot about my concern in vintage. And then I think it really flipped over to the modern. And I felt that because most people were watching modern Pokemon channels. And so it created a lot of incentive for people to start, top 5 modern products to buy. And they were doing it to get views and to build their channel. And I have nothing against them to get views. And I want them to succeed. I would love every YouTube channel to be extremely successful. I'd love for you to have 100,000 subscribers and make a lot of money and be famous. And like nothing would make me happier, right? It's just, how do we do that without sacrificing the integrity of what we're doing? And how do we do that, like understanding the ramifications and the repercussions, both in the short term and something I would talk a lot about with people, the long term, because I think a really healthy hobby is a hobby full of people who feel like they have good information, who feel like they're welcome and cared for, and that there are people who really care about them here and want them to have a good time. And that it's not about competition and scamming and trying to get one over on people and, trying to just kind of, burn it down, get the most you can and burn the relationship and, the type of stuff that happens in that mania stuff. And, and so I think that in my head, I've connected that to some of the modern Pokemon as investable community, if that makes sense, even if it doesn't describe like a lot of the PokeTubers out there. So what do you make of that? Have you thought about that, Zach?
Yeah, I think about it every time I'm trying to record one of my much shorter form videos, because so much of it can and is taken out of context, and that's terrible. And that's an internal discussion and debate I'm constantly having, because it's like, do you not publish the content then? Or do you always put up 18 billion disclaimers at the front of every single video and at the end of them and throughout the video? So, I mean, there's, of course, a line you have to draw somewhere, and people at the end of the day are going to do what they want to do. However, that does not excuse me from my position to just be lackadaisical in what I say and what I do. I have to be very careful about the things that I say and the things that I upload and the angles that I'm coming from. So yeah, it's really tricky. I mean, maybe there's a right answer. If there is, please let me know. I'd love to know. But
Yeah. I mean, I
it's
also worry about the legal ramifications of it, and the fact like right cards right now are not securities, but could they be? Crypto wasn't a security, then it was made a security, and then they went back and they
it could be
prosecuted
retroactive. Yeah.
and locked those guys up, right? The FBI came after those YouTube channels and some of those people pushing up crypto coins and different sorts of things. So, and I know that there are channels who are pushing up products that they're selling actively, these types of things, without saying that or without, being upfront about it. So it's, and then of course, I mean, there's the relationships between WADA and PSA and Golden and Heritage, and it's like all these things that I guess I just feel like it hurts the hobby because it takes the trust away, and I think that when we talk a lot about risk and negativity and we still want to be here and we still want to do it, it really solidifies the market in a much more sustainable way. I think when things are driven up by hype, that's when people lose a lot of money, the people who fall for it. Whereas if things are kind of move up in sort of a cautious way, then everyone sort of makes money together over time because we're building a hobby that we really enjoy, which continues to attract more people and more generations. And I guess that's the hobby I want to be proud of. Like I want to look back in 20, 30 years and be like, these card hobbies are something to be proud of, not something that we're filled with, people looking to make a quick buck or trick people in an unregulated market, and where we have like these little Discord groups behind the scene where we all own a card and we all talk about how we're going to like make it more valuable and we're going to play the market and we're going to get other people to buy it and we're going to make a video. And it's like, that's the stuff that I know I'm like happens. Right. And so it's we'll get there. But my apologies for going off on that. I think going back to the topic, I guess, at hand for people, happy to take questions on Modern. Should you invest in your money in Modern? I think we can answer some questions. I guess also to summarize, I guess my opinion is if you're going to invest in Modern, I'd be investing, I would not invest in any booster box that is already out. This is just my opinion. And that doesn't mean that those booster boxes are going to go up, but I just think that I would wait. I think that they're too unestablished, the price points, and they could go up, they could go down. For me personally, there's just too much risk in all of them. And I put that, I think when we look into like the like Majestic Dawn, when we get back to like the Diamond and Pearl level X, I think it's interesting. I think those are very high risk, potential high reward type plays because of how few those are and how expensive those level X cards are now and could hold up in the future. So I think that when we start going back a little further, it becomes a little bit more interesting. But for me, talking just like back through X and Y maybe and setting it there, I would not buy anything that has gone up. This is my personal opinion. I would wait. That will be right in some cases and wrong in other cases, but that, what I mean? And if you're interested, I would be buying, I'd be keeping, booster boxes or ETBs. I'd be looking for deals. I'd be very patient. I'd be trying to get them as close to distributor prices as possible. And I would slowly buy some product and build some product over time. If you're bullish and you want to do it that way, while you're also putting money into other sorts of things and you have plenty of money to live on and you won't need to liquidate, your items anytime soon. So that would be, I guess, my take on it. I would completely avoid buying any PSA Modern cards. I would not buy anything that isn't a vintage PSA card. That's my personal perspective and opinion. There isn't a single card that I'd be buying, including Japanese promos. Even the Modern Japanese promos, would not be buying them at any of those prices. My personal opinion. What do you think about all that, Zach? Maybe to summarize where you're at. Any agree, disagree, anything you might take some flyers on that I didn't say?
Yeah, no, I like the majority of what you just said there. There's, with the caveat that we all know Jake knows, for anyone watching who may not, never going to be able to buy at the lowest, never going to be able to sell at the highest. However, we have a pretty good idea of what about the lowest is when it comes to at least sealed product. there's usually a floor there. You can't get a $40 ETB much lower than 40, 30, $20. You're not going to pick up an ETB at Walmart for $0, for example. However, does that mean it's a good investment? What if it stays at $30 for the next 5 years? Well, so there are a lot of things you have to keep in mind when investing in this product. Yes, if you buy anything that's in that reprint no-no zone, be careful. If it's a stellar pickup, potentially, if it's right before the set rotates out, that's when I would start looking at particular items. For example, I made a video about Hidden Fates and how I thought that could potentially be a cool modern product to pick up, even still. However, there's risk involved with that. There's risk involved with all of these things. And I think it was in the XY breakdown video, look for outliers in modern sets. Like, oh, wow, the entire X and Y block, most of the ETBs outperform booster boxes. Why is it not outperforming on this set? Oh, that was the last set within the block. Maybe the ETBs, it's just a matter of time before it outperforms the booster boxes. Maybe it's a great buy right now. Not saying that it is. It's things like that. So that's my take on it as well. So yes, I'm bullish on modern, but I don't think I'm as bullish as people are starting to point out from my videos, but because it's the only kind of content I'm making currently. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think that like when I say don't buy PSA cards, I mean right now. So there might be cards in 3 years that are from these sets that I would be picking up in 3 years. I threw hundreds of that, right? Like I threw so much money at some of these middle generations when no one else was touching them and everyone was saying that they were too modern, because I saw that there was a low enough price point, and I thought that, and I felt like there wasn't that much supply out there and that these things were going to become popular. And I sensed that people were starting to move from the gold stars into the level X's, and that there were, fans of the 4th and 5th generation of Pokemon. So in 3 years, if I'm sensing that these sets they're fans of these sets, and I think that they're going to, stand the test of time, and most of the supply is back from PSA, and I feel a lot of these PSA 10s and 9 prices have bottomed out, and I can pick up a bunch of these like alternative arts and rainbow rares at like, $20, $30, $40 in PSA 10, I might scoop in and buy hundreds, like many hundreds. And that's the way that I move in some of these markets sometimes, just to be more transparent than I usually am. And I like to wait till I feel like I understand something and I feel very strongly, and then I'm very aggressive. I'm not a nibbler over a long period of time in markets that I have no idea what's going to happen, with the idea that I'm going to what's the word? Like a cost value. What's the word? The stocky word, where you buy, every month, dollar average or whatever, cost dollar average, dollar cost average. Thank you. I knew I was stringing the words together, but in the wrong order.
Nailed it.
That's not how I invest in these markets. Okay. The stock market, I don't feel like I'll ever be able to predict macroeconomic trends. And so in the stock market, I pick good companies and I buy them as soon as I think they're good. And I'm not trying to time things as much. And I'm not, it's very different, just to be honest. And that's why when I hear people say it's time in this market versus timing the market, it's like, it's both. And ideally you are timing a lot, and you're working to understand the patterns and you're trying to take advantage of those patterns. And of course you're going to try the same thing in the stock market, but I just think it's just such a much bigger thing. And there's so many, there's so many more factors to consider that it just makes it, that much harder to predict what's going to happen on any one given day, week, month, or year.
Definitely. It's funny you bring that up. My sister's an economist, and she was like, Zach, if I'm 20% right on a given day, it's a good day. Like there's just way too much for any human or a group of humans to try to ascertain. It's impossible. So, and that's why it is what it is. That's why investing is investing. Like you're not guaranteed anything, but that's why it's so much fun, right? That's why we're talking. So.
Yeah. And I think that's a great place. And something that I like to talk about is that if you lose 20% of your money and you had a lot of fun, that was probably a great way to spend your entertainment value because you didn't lose all of it, so like you would for most entertainment. So I think that's also a way, like if you're in that sort of area too of this, where it's like, this is a blast, you're freaking loving it, you're not anxious about your boxes going down because you have the money and you're not banking on this, like, then you're like right in that sweet spot. I think it can be hard to be there because there's this greed that comes out because you see people making so much money. You see people talking about making so much money. You see people telling you you're going to get ahead in life and you're going to not have to work anymore, and or imply that or send out those sorts of vibes and messages. And you combine that with the addicting elements of this, the addicting elements of buying, right? The increased depression and anxiety in the world right now, given the events this year, the increased isolation and loneliness. Like you just have to be careful, with all of that. And there's a risk. And I, as I said, I just really want this to be like a fun, welcoming place for people forever, for the foreseeable future. Not this channel, the Pokemon community in general. I want to be going to collecticons when I'm like 60, 65 and for real, and it being a long-term thriving hobby and not something that a lot of people like took advantage of and left a terrible taste in a lot of people's mouths. And then people are talking negatively about the people associated with it. And, rightfully so, like some other, unfortunately has happened in some other collectibles and other hobbies over the years. So let's take some questions, Zach. What do you think? And we can open it up to, you can ask about modern. We can also open it up to vintage and other sorts of things. Sound good, man?
That sounds really good. I did have one like pre-question if we want to throw it at the top of the pile. I think it was from Mike S, if I remember right. He wanted us to touch on, he wants Jake to pour the cold water on to take the angle, I think, as to why investing in Hidden Fates ETBs would be a bad play. If you could play maybe either devil's advocate, or not saying that's necessarily your mindset, but.
Yeah. So I think I'm in I have no idea what's going to happen camp with Hidden Fates. There are too many variables. So I'm going to throw cold water on it by just saying, I think that there's a lot of risk and there's a lot of variables that are just really hard to determine. When I buy a PSA 10 first edition Jungle Hollow, there are just a lot less variables that I have to worry about. And I know what I'm buying, and I have an idea of how many are going to be in the world. And I think I have an idea of how it's going to age and how much people are going to want it. Hidden Fates, I don't know how it's going to age. I don't know how much is out there. I don't know how much is being opened. I don't know how many people are holding it. I don't know how much is still at PSA. I don't know where these graded cards are going to settle, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so for me, do I think you're foolish to buy it right now and take a shot on it as an investment? No. Do I think you're foolish if you think it's like a home run investment and people are saying like it's a definite and it's definitely going to go up and how could it not? And it's going to be thousands for sure, guaranteed. I think you're either a bit naive or I've got a bit of problem with you because I think you're misleading people. And I think you're, I'm not talking to you, Zach, but maybe some other channels and people out there. I think that's something that like, I don't know how you'd have that crystal ball knowledge, and where you'd be able to get that from. Do I think there's great upside on a set like Hidden Fates? Do I think there's great upside on a set on an ETB like Hidden Fates because it has that, the stained glass, promo, which although there are a ton of them, it's a popular card. I think it did stand out. I think maybe it's a little bit, not as talked about right now, or I think the alternative arts, this is what happens, right? Is there are narratives. Like there was a time when that was like, this is going to be amazing. And there's this great narrative around that. Now I'm seeing there a narrative be built around like the Champions Path Charizard. Now I'm seeing narratives been built around the alternative arts. So when you're in a hobby for a while, you see how there are these sort of short-term narratives that push up prices and then people sort of move on to the next thing. And so what is going to be a narrative that's going to either reoccur or sort of stand the test of time? So I'm not sure about that card, but that is an upside in an ETB. Who knows how many are left. I do like that these stores are stockpiling them because I think that they might know something. But again, that's just speculation. And that's where I'm at with it. So I think, it's reasonable. If I had money that wasn't spoken for. Like I am heavily invested in everything all the time, and I still have plenty of things I'm buying outside of Pokemon. So I'm not like looking for things that I don't feel very confident about within Pokemon. But if I was looking for things in Pokemon and I was like, well, vintage is too expensive and too risky, Hidden Fates ETBs would be something I would consider. Okay. And I think it would be something I'd consider. I would consider that. I would consider just saving my money and trying to buy the next sets at as low of a price as possible. It's probably what I would do. I would consider, Evolving Skies, particularly if it drops down in price a little bit. Like, these are things that I would consider putting a little bit of money into with the hope that I make, 5-10% a year. And it's a nice piece that I put on my, and I probably open it maybe at some point because it's fun. And I actually not doing this for investing or whatever, I'm talking about people out there, and you just, and it provides a little bit of like entertainment and enjoyment. I think all that's super reasonable. What do you think, Zach?
I agree with all of that. I would say if I were investing 100% for the best return on my money, I would not have like any of what you see behind me on that shelf. As much as we like to think that we're objective investors, we are totally not. We always invest with our emotions to a certain point. You can certainly mitigate that. We can be quite objective creatures, but the whole reason we're sitting here talking about this is because we like Pokemon. So don't get it twisted, guys. I personally know people who make way too much money investing in sports cards. I could shift to that and potentially make way more money, but I'm not passionate about it. I really like Pokemon. It makes sense to me to a certain point. So to get back onto the Hidden Fates topic, I like the set. I think it's got a lot of really good things going for it. Do I know it's going to be X amount of dollars in the future? No, nobody does. Do I think the set is rotating out here very shortly? Yes. Do I think that we could see an increase in demand and a decrease in supply potentially, like Jake just brought up? There could be a couple of outside variables at play right now that could be alluding to that, potentially. But as an investment, as a modern investment, I like it. Again, can't guarantee anything, but I like it. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah. If you're serious about investing in modern out there, what you want to do is you want to watch the amount that are being purchased every day. And you want to watch the prices from an hour to hour, day to day basis. And then as soon as you start to see an uptick, you want to buy 300. And then you want to sell probably a week later when it's gone up. And that's what some of my friends do. So just to be completely honest, and it's not investing, it's timing the market, because they know they are sensing when eBay is starting to run out of product and when prices are going to start going up. And they know that as soon as prices start going up, there tends to be a run. And a lot of people are like, okay, now's my last chance to get it. When something stays at a certain price forever, psychologically, people think, oh, I have all the time in the world to get this. When a price starts creeping up, the FOMO starts coming in. They think this is the last time that I'm going to be able to buy it. And then if you are also doing a buyout at the same time and you buy everything out of eBay, which helps the price go up. So now the price all of a sudden has gone from, whatever it is, we're talking about, $90 to $110. And this is exactly what happened with Evolutions. Then people say, okay, then the FOMO hits, and all these, or now there's a lot of other things going on there. And that's the time to strike. And now you've avoided 3 years of no growth, and you've hit the exact time, and you've timed it correctly. And so that's, Chevel's made a comment here saying just like, other than it's just risky, can you give us anything? And and that's what I would say, right? I mean, if you're serious about flipping, is that something that I feel like is super replicable? I'm not really sure. And I think that there's quite a bit of risk in it too. And you need to then have people, buy it from you. So is it something that I'd be doing? No. Is it something that my friends have done really successfully? Is it something that I consider to do? So when that happened, when Evolution started going up, I considered buying a lot of not Evolutions, but a lot of Modern Sealed product right in that window, as I think a lot of people did, which is why it went up so much, because we felt everything starting to move and then everything else corrected up. And so you had a lot of people trying to speculate and make money. Okay. And so I think that when you're super engaged in the market, you can catch that earlier rather than later, before all the YouTube channels are reporting it, which then gets it out there, which then gets more people to buy it. Makes sense, guys? So let's see. And shout out any questions you want to answer, by the way, Zach, if anything.
I'm trying to scroll through right now.
Questions, guys. Ask your questions below. It doesn't have to just be on Modern, but could be. Ideally Modern. We'll probably take the Modern questions over, just because we don't talk too much Modern in this channel. And I actually know quite a bit about particularly the Sun and Moon and X and Y era, because I watched it incredibly closely. I know less about this era, but I've actually been researching it the last couple of weeks. So I know more now than I did. Do you think, John Kyle says, do you think CGC pop reports will change the market? I think so.
I guess it depends if you're looking at a certain time frame or not. Do I think they will affect it? Maybe indirectly. At first, here's my thought process on all of that. As an investor, do I like CGC over PSA? No. But that's because PSA has the market. Do I think that PSA will have the market 5 years from now? Again, no guarantees here. As an investor, yes, if I were to put my money into something, and in fact I am, I would be willing to bet thousands of dollars on that. Not saying that you should. However, do I think that CGC will affect the market? Yes, in some way. I don't see it affecting it as far as, is that going to affect my PSA 10 Charizard or this or that? Not in particular.
Specifically, will the pop reports being able to be seen? Because right now we can't see the pop reports. Will that information being out there affect the market?
Yes, a little bit. Especially at first, you're going to see some market noise. After that initial freak out period.
Which way do you think it will affect the market, or will it at all? I have an answer. Think about it for a second. So yeah, for me, and this is one of the golden rules, right, that we're going to continue to repeat on this channel, that people invest in the future, and the future is already baked into prices today. Okay. So whatever people think is going to happen, if it's better, the market goes up. If it's worse, the market goes down. And that's the stock market, it's the Pokemon market, it's whatever. So if we take celebrations, for example, people have the market feels a certain way about celebrations. I'm not sure, there's some negativity, there's some positivity. If it ends up being worse than the average perception or the average expectation, it'll get hit and prices will go lower than what people expected. If it ends up being better than the average market or more exciting, a great example is Champion's Path, right? Champion's Path, everyone's like, this is going to be amazing. Everyone invested in it really heavily. People spent a lot, right? And then it ended up being this small set that people didn't like. It ended up being worse, less fun than people, enjoyed. The Charizard prices went down a lot. The ETB struggled compared to other things in the same time frame. So with this CGC question, first of all, how many people are even thinking about this? So I'd be concerned that not a lot of people are thinking about it, which worries me. Okay. So that would worry me, that it's just not a very sophisticated, we're not a super sophisticated market filled with super sophisticated investors as compared to something like the stock market or something where the majority of people in this space know the pop reports and are super engaged and that sort of thing. So that concerns me, because if CGC comes out, right, with they have 20 or 30,000 evolutions or hidden fates cards created on top of the 80 to 100,000 that PSA has, and we see that a lot of these modern sets that have super low pops, even worse, I think, than those things, we see a lot of these sets that have super low pops because PSA has been shut down, and so people are paying some premiums on certain things. We see that CGC actually has a lot of them, and a lot of them coming out. What does that do to the PSA prices? What does that do to the market overall? Does it bring in that feeling of these aren't that rare? I'm also concerned about how it separates the market, spreads out the market, that it's more difficult to track people, and what effect that's going to have. So that's what I would be looking at is I think it's going to be great data for us data junkies and us data nerds and people who really want to see, you know, where are all these cards from all of these sets? They've got to be somewhere in the world that are not just sitting in binders. And maybe a lot of them aren't waiting to be graded, but so it'll be interesting to await that. But if the market predicts that there aren't going to be a lot of CGC cards graded, or there aren't going to be a lot of 10s, and then there are a lot of 10s or a lot more than they expected, prices will come down. If there are less than what people expected, prices will go up. Hope that makes sense. Roundabout way of getting to that point.
I have nothing to add. I misinterpreted the question. Yes, I agree.
Oh, no problem. Jamie Scott says, with all the new grading companies and the mass amount of cards being graded, are we in the junk slab era?
I would say no. Yes and no to that. I'm going to say yes and no a lot because there are always so many variables to consider that I am not aware of, that most people are not aware of, that you could never be aware of. That being said, are we in the junk slab era? No, in the fact that during that time period, you saw 50 billion different parallels of the same player introduced to the market. Do we see 50 different Charizards introduced? Yes and no. Not to the extent that we saw during the junk slab era. So, yes, because it's kind of a smaller version of that with the alt arts, and then you have the V alt art of the Rayquaza, and then you have the V Max alt art of that. So, yes, but also no. So, I hope that makes sense. Things are printed more. What is terrible that I absolutely hate about this market in one way is I like data. That is what I did for a living. And I have no idea how many Evolving Skies booster boxes there are. I have no idea. So yes, but also no. Hopefully you can bring some more light to that, Jake.
Sure. I mean, we're roughly at about, I think, 80-ish thousand now evolutions cards graded just in the last like 8 months or so, the vast majority, and it's rising quickly. There are 100 total base unlimited, 100,000 base unlimited, graded over the last 20 years. So the amount that is being graded is unprecedented. So we are certainly in a junk slab era as compared to what we were before. Now, will there be a larger junk slab era in the future? Or what do we really mean by a junk slab era? Does that mean that these slabs are going to be going for under $20 a case, under the value of a case? Because maybe that's a good definition. It's like there are a lot of slabs that are selling for under the value of what people paid to grade them. Do I think that'll be the case? Absolutely. But that's also because of the cards that people are choosing to grade, because a lot of people are grading with CGC, and CGC is hitting them with like 8s on like normal like V cards, like not even full RV cards. It's like that card to me definitely should not be over $21. That card's a 50-cent card, maybe 40 cents. Like that's a borderline bulk type item that you just put in a PSA 8 or CGC 8 slab, which isn't even good. If I open that fresh from a pack, I'd probably do better. You know what I mean? Like where is the value in that long term? So you have to understand that like I was buying like, let's see if I have anything here. I have mostly like pretty nice stuff here, but I was buying, cards like this, like Shadowless Chansey, PSA 8s for $40, $40, $50, right? I have like stacks and stacks of just Shadowless, like PSA 8s, PSA 7s, PSA 9s. And those cards are only going for over $20 or $30 over the cost of grading what it is now. Okay. People are expecting their regular V cards just a year later or 2 years later, their regular V cards to be going for $50 when there are so many more PSA 8, PSA 9, PSA 10 copies of that in the world than this. And this is the first ever base set Shadowless. And when you think about how expensive these packs are now, obviously the market has dramatically changed and these are quite a bit more valuable, but like these need to be a lot more valuable in my opinion than they are now for us to get out of the junk slab era on certain items. And I think that's what worries me is I think that there isn't going to be enough money in all of these things and enough interest in a lot of these cards to pull them above that $20. So I would expect to see people fire selling, slabs. And I think whether or not you pick those up, I think that's there might come a point where I pick them up, depending on the thing and where I'm engaged. And I think there will be people who will pick them up and there will be people who will buy them. And, it'll be interesting to see. I think we're probably a year away. From everything coming back.
The inevitable wave. Still trying to find some good questions here.
Yeah, I mean, and then what you have to think about with these PSA cards is the amount that is out there that is, if any of these cards ever do start spiking. So for example, like let's say Hidden Fates PSA 10s get it back up to like $100 to $200. And I know some of them are there right now, right? But like they will very likely come back down, like just because of the number of these things, unless there are some very wealthy people who just buy up hundreds, and there 100% might be. Okay. But I think that's the type of thing that it would take. Now, and I'm not even sure that's a terrible investment or a bad move. So it's risky, but there are positives and negatives to it. Okay. But if that happens and they can get back up to $100 to $200 and PSA opens again, and you can grade your cards for $20, there's going to be 100,000 more graded within the next year. Okay. Across that set, because that's how many of these are still sitting in binders and are sitting in stacks waiting to be graded. So every time that the prices go back up, it's going to provide incentive for just another 50,000, another 20,000, another 10,000. And until all of that supply has been in the market and gets out of people's collections and all that sort of thing, I wouldn't be investing in those types of items for the long term. And you have to worry about these drunk slab type ideas. And it's the same thing with vintage unlimited and vintage commons and uncommons, even in first edition. So just be careful.
I did see a comment. It was slightly unrelated. I can't find it now. Something to the effect of timing the market in regards to the stock market. Again, I only want to briefly touch on this just because, again, I hopefully can add some sort of unique angle here that we don't always hear in the Pokemon space. So again, we're talking about the stock market here, not a financial advisor, not licensed anymore. So as far as timing the market goes, specifically the stock market, I'm a fan of timing the Pokemon market if you have your ear to the ground and there are some opportunities in your opinion that you think you could take advantage of. As far as the stock market is concerned, over the last 20 years, the stock market, the S&P 500 has averaged about an 8.6% rate of return. If you were out of the market for only 10 of the best trading days during the last 20 years, you would have seen a 2.5% return. Keep that in mind. Do you think that you are smart enough to know when those best 10 days are? I can tell you, statistically, over 99% of people are not. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, and I think it seems to be that, and I think I just have had this been drilled into me by my financial advisor father since I was a little kid. But like, you sell into hype and buy into fear. And irrational anxiety and fear. And most people just do the opposite and will probably always do the opposite. As long as there's humanity, most people will, because they want to feel confident. They want to be made to feel good. Like, I want to be everyone to be telling me I'm an idiot and be made to feel bad. But I understand why there's actually really good upside that people are missing. That's where you want to be. You don't want to be in a situation where everyone's like, it's amazing and it can only go up and this or that, and aren't really, giving reasons why, or saying, or aren't talking about the negatives from that. And that's from that psychological perspective, how to time markets or have a sense of like, where are we in this market? Okay. Aiden M says, how much of modern price has contributed to FOMO? Could the rapid releases of sets and continued reprints contribute to a burnout of modern Pokemon? What do you think, Zach?
Could you read the second part of that, or could you repeat it? I'm sorry.
Sure. Aiden M says, how much of modern's price is contributed to FOMO? Could the rapid releases of sets and continued reprints contribute to a burnout of modern Pokemon?
Yes. So, I mean, goodness, there's so many different angles that you can come at that. Um, FOMO is a real thing. Um, yes, I know that this is anecdotal. I had most of my college buddies who jumped in on the hype train back when everything was just ballistic during this time period, opening up packs of, I think it was even Battle Styles, maybe at the very beginning. If not, the set before that was at Shining Fates, I think. Um, and opening up packs, it didn't matter where they bought it from, opening up packs, flipping it online, and making money. Opening product, making money regularly, not grading it, not doing any work, having fun, enjoying themselves. Um, I don't think a single one of them are still in Pokemon right now. So I think that that's a real thing across the board. Again, I understand that's very anecdotal, but do I think that there are more than just a handful of smart college dudes that did the exact same thing and that are currently doing that and people continuing to leave? Yes. Do I think that there is going to be FOMO baked into nearly every upcoming set? It should. If Pokemon is doing their job, I think there would be a great deal, a great amount of hype and FOMO wrapped up into it. Will that affect how prices continue or decline? Certainly. Yeah. So I mean, that's my take on that. There's a lot of ways to answer that, but I like the question.
Yeah, I think one example that pops into my head is from the and I saw Mason jump in the chat from the LGS perspective. The fear of missing out, not getting enough product on battle styles, right? Not knowing that they were going to give they were going to give everything that people asked for, and they'd love you to order more right now. And right now you could still get probably pallets for $76, I think, from your distributor, and there's just so much of it still out there, which is part of why probably early to invest in battle styles, but could get eaten up quickly. And as I said, I saw a little bit of price movement, so it's interesting. We'll have to see where it goes. I know I saw like a TPJ video and some other videos just saying now's a good time to invest in battle styles or buy battle styles. So those types of things I do think really help move that market or have a lot of people buy it or, take a look at that. So I think that that's a really good example of this fear of missing out of every set is a home run. I make a ton of money on every set. So I'm going to go, intensely into it. And then now I have all this product and people don't want it. And it's tied up in this inventory. And now I need to either get rid of it, for certain LGSs or certain businesses, they don't have that much money. So they really have to sell their product in order to then be able to afford Evolving Skies or sort of the next sets, et cetera, depending on how their model's working. So, that sort of sentiment was definitely here more a few months ago. Right now, there's a lot more, I think, is it a good idea? I've been burned a little bit, let me think it over, this type of thing. I think that there's plenty of negativity right now against Modern. I think 6 months ago, it was like super, super positive and a little manic, now I think that there's like plenty of negativity. Like there are plenty of people who are like, it doesn't make sense to invest in Modern. Like there are all these risks. There's all this, there are plenty of people saying that they're you know what I mean? So I don't feel like there's as much rampant fear of missing out that I'm worried about. I think prices are probably going to settle on some of these. Like my best guess is prices might look a little bit more normal, hope, for the rest of the year, and that these sets will do well and they'll sell well. And, Pokemon will figure out how many to print, but that also people will be able to actually get product at more affordable rates. And, we won't see prices skyrocket. We won't see as much, scalping activity. There'll still be quite a bit, but not quite as much because the margins won't be as intense and as positive there. So that's what I would say. I think I answered that question about that. Could the rapid release in sets continue reprints contribute to a burnout? I think that people can get burned out in a number of different ways, or just become uninterested and need to take a break. And I think that, how many of those people are leaving, how many new people are coming in to take their place, and how much money do people have? And do people get burned out on the amount that they can spend? And I think that that's another big thing we really want to look at. To talk macroeconomically for a second, we really want to look at is unemployment runs out and gets close to running out, how does that affect modern Pokemon? I think that modern Pokemon was largely boosted by unemployment checks, because people were making more money this year than they normally made at their jobs, and they weren't spending it on other things, and they were able to buy cases basically every month with that unemployment, basically free money, and just put it in their closet, and it was going up. And I think a lot of that was driving what we were seeing, and some of the speed on some of the stuff. So I think as that runs out, I'm wondering how that affects things. And, are there as much retail investors? I think as an LGS, I'd be really, just watching that and really concerned about how much should I be ordering right now? Should I continue to get as much as I possibly can, or might I, get stuck with some of this stuff? So, that type of thing. What do you think about all of that, Zach?
I agree. I hate the idea of sitting on product that I had the intention of either flipping or investing and holding on to for a profit. So yes, like he said, it's there's a everyone is their own unique person. There could be a billion different reasons why they go into a hobby or exit a hobby. So I think what your comment was referencing, yes, I think it could lead to more burnout. How much would I say it would lead to that? I have no idea, because everyone is different, like Jake and I said. So, yeah, I agree with that. I think I found another question.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, hold on, let me scroll up. Jake, Zach, do you expect another bump in the Pokeonomy at the 30th anniversary set, just like the 20th and the 25th lead ups? That's from Professor Oak.
Say it one more time. I apologize.
Yeah, I just.
Oh, here we go. I found it.
Okay.
Go for it.
Yeah. So, okay, no crystal ball here. Yes, we've historically seen that. I can't. Do I expect it? I don't know, because there are a lot of times. I'll use an outside TCG as an example. Like Flesh and Blood. Let's just use that as an example. Some of the first edition, first edition sets, like Monarch was the last one, I believe, and you're familiar with it too, right, Jake?
Mm-hmm.
Somewhat. So correct me if I'm wrong. Is what I'm trying to say. So first edition Monarch booster boxes did not perform as good as its predecessor, which I think was Crucible of War. It doesn't matter. That was one of them. And Crucible of War didn't perform as good as the one prior to that, and it didn't perform as well as the one prior to that even. What I'm trying to say is, where was I going with that? So yes, even though previous sets did well, and objectively, if you bought a first edition Monarch booster box for, I don't know, whatever the going rate, the retail rate was, around $100 or whatever, and sold into the hype, that's awesome. You could see a continual trend down on that. Do I think that a lot of people will think, hey, this could be a great investment opportunity to invest in Generations? Could be a great investment opportunity to invest in Celebrations. Do I think the 30th anniversary that there will be even more people thinking, oh, this is going to be a great investment because the 20th did good and the 25th did good? Not necessarily indicative of how great the 30th or 40th anniversary sets will do. Do I think that you could potentially capture on some of the market hype and FOMO? Certainly. As you could any new set that comes out that's hot at the time. It depends how Pokemon markets the set. It depends what's all in the set, if they do an indirect reprint of some old cards. So there are a lot of variables involved there. Do I expect a bump in the Pokeonomy during that time? Like across the board as a whole, impossible to say. Do I expect somewhat of a bump around that time period? If I had to say, yes, but I don't know to what scale.
Fair enough. Let's see what else we got here. If you see any questions also earlier up. people kind of having discussions, which is nice to see always. I think we'll probably go for another 20 minutes. How does that sound, Zach? How does that work for you
That
for
works great
tonight?
for me.
Okay. And then I'm sure we will chat again, have you on again in the future.
I am realizing I'm terrible at keeping up with chat.
Um, let's see. I'll go up a little higher and see what people said. Let's see. Carl Chambers says, what do you think of PokeNav's subscription service, where he charges people $50 per month to buy modern product from him? Are you familiar with what PokeNav is doing?
I am subscribed to that particular service, so yes.
Oh, great. So you can talk specifically about it. So what kind of inspired you to do it, and what do you think about it?
So yeah, I don't have local connections that I am aware of. I am actively trying to build those connections. I don't have access to distributor level pricing. That's what I'm trying to say. That was a very simple way to access that. So that is why that intrigued me. However, I will say, yes, like he mentioned there, it is $50 a month. That's a pretty steep buy-in for like a casual investor, like a light to casual investor. If you're only spending, gosh, I don't know, maybe a couple $100 a month on this, on Pokemon in general, does it make sense to take, I don't know, nearly a third or a fourth or a fifth of that into a subscription service to where it forces you to purchase from it regularly? No, I don't think that would be a wise use of your money. However, if you are spending potentially hundreds or thousands of dollars monthly, I saw a tremendous opportunity there for a modern product. However, it depends on what interests you, right? So it's $50 a month, but I get access to Magic the Gathering. I don't just get access to Pokemon product. I don't get access, or I do get access to Weiss Schwarz. All these card games that I'm interested in. I think you can see some of them. You might not be able to see them well, but other product that I'm interested in at distributor level costs, which again, we were talking about before, it depends what you get, what your buy-in price is for these certain items. If you're investing or going to flip, it makes sense to buy it at the lowest dollar amount. Another great reason why I got into this, I've got a buddy of mine who is also into this. We talk about it all day, every day, and we just split the cost as well, like PokeNav recommended even. So it's $25 a month for me. So for me, that was a really simple decision to make. $25 a month, as much money as I spend in this game. It made a lot of sense to me because if anything, personally, and I don't touch on this on my channel, I probably won't, for me, I could make that money back for Magic the Gathering, in my opinion. So that was a good staple to throw in. So I don't know how much more you want me to touch on it or not, but yeah, I like it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's just a numbers game. So, I mean, first of all, like I hope PokeNav succeeds, and I hope it's profitable for him, and I hope that it works out for the people that are buying into it, right, and that they're getting good deals and saving money, and it's sort of a win-win. That's the hope for anything like that, is that it's a win-win all around. I think, I'm sure that PokeNav and his partner are going to work hard to try to make it a win-win, both because I'm sure that they care about their fans and supporters and want to be helpful to people, but also from a business perspective, like they're going to lose customers if people are losing money by spending $50 a month. And I think it's possible that people are right now losing money. I don't know what product they're offering or how much people are buying. I think part of the danger, right, of that is like if Pokemon becomes more largely accessible and people can start getting like fairly close to above distributor prices again on eBay or other places, then it becomes like, well, now I really need to be buying a lot of product from him to offset the $50 cost for that to make sense. I don't know how that works over time with that, and you'll just sort of have to see. I think the other thing with that can be possibly is that people are sort of like buying in now, even if it doesn't make sense now, to help sort of grow it. One thing I've heard from some people, the idea that being like, if we buy into it, and they get more people who are interested, then they'll be able to get more product and thus be able to sell more product to us and get it at a cheaper, and we'll be able to get things at a cheaper rate and where it will mathematically make sense for everyone. Again, my advice to people is simply like, do what mathematically makes sense for you. And, I don't hate on other people one way or the other for doing what makes mathematical sense to them. I think if you see someone making a mistake and signing up for that when it doesn't probably make sense for them, I think telling them or talking to them and about if it's a friend of yours, not if it's a stranger. If it's a stranger, it's kind of like, well, maybe a little bit none of your business, but if it's a friend of yours, I think you probably have to buy a lot of product to make that worth it, particularly when we compare it to something like Rudy's, Patreon, where it's, quite a bit cheaper and there are a lot of offerings constantly. Although I know Rudy's Patreon is sold out. It's really, you can't get onto that, or it's very difficult to get onto that. But yeah. And from a personal, perspective, I really just hope it's successful for him. And he's trying to start a business and, support his family and, all that sort of thing. So I hope it's successful. I hope it works out for his fans and supporters.
Yeah, I really like him. He's cool. I kind of wish we had Mason's insight there, because yes, we're buying in early right now, and it doesn't make a ton of sense right now on the Pokemon side of things, but that's what interested me, was because I'm not just limited to Pokemon, and they did preface it with, hey guys, we're new, we can't guarantee all this product up front for you, the goal is to get there. So I was aware of that buying in, and I am okay with that too. And if you're not okay with it, then that's fine. You don't have to get involved.
Yeah. I think where it becomes a little tricky, and Rudy falls into the same trap, is if you're telling people that these are really good investments and then you're selling a product to them, that's where it gets into these sort of is that a win-win? Is that a conflict of interest? It's tricky, and it doesn't have to be a conflict of interest, and you can generally believe it. And, the Rudy model and that model can work because it helps them get a lot more product, and maybe some of that product they're going to sit on because they actually believe it's an investment too. So they get a lot more product. They're able to sit on some, they're able to sell a lot. They're able to get a lot more capital from that. They're going to make a lot of profit off of it, both in the $50 membership. And they might also, I don't know if they're going to make profit off of each individual sale, or if they're going to lose money on every sale. I don't know I don't know what the numbers look like. I don't know what prices they're getting versus the prices they're selling things at. I don't have any of that insider knowledge, but, Rudy certainly makes money at every step. Rudy, maybe there's a little bit of loss on some of the magic boxes that he sells at $82 or $85 after shipping. And, I'm not sure. But so that's what I would say. So I think it's just about, it's different options. With my Patreon and what I'm hoping to build out, I'm hoping to build out, some potential options where maybe we get some product and we open some product, together, either just for fun or pay, and for me, it would be something that I would make $0 extra on. But something that I'd love to do, for example, would be as part of the Patreon someday, if we could get one booster box for every Patreon member, and they literally could pay exactly what I paid for it, we'd literally just be giving them at the exact same price. That would be cool and would be a fun thing. And maybe, we're going to do a private Discord for the Patreon, for example, and maybe we could open that together there or hang out there and watch that, So I think adding those types of things are great. It's just all about, is your business model a win-win? And are you providing enough value for the people who are paying for it? And that's up to people to decide that for themselves, Yeah,
definitely. If you're still hunting for comments, because, if you're still looking for those, just you personally, Jake, and this could be as far back as to, whatever time period you'd like. What modern-ish card or cards do you like the most aesthetically, not from an investment standpoint? What do you just like? I'm just curious to know.
I just want to, sorry, just before we answer that. So Mason said, Patreon buy clubs help the hosts. Yeah. So that's that key point that I was making, right? Of it helps them get their numbers up so they can get much more product and they can get much more money. They also get their product at lower and lower rates, the more that they can get it for. So the more you're signing up for this, the better, the more money they're going to make, the lower they're going to be able to get it. Maybe the lower you hope they're going to pass it on to you. You know, how much do you trust the person that you're signing up for? Do you feel like they're going to pass those costs on to you or not? Like these are the things you just want to know what you're signing up for. If you're signing up for anyone and just being comfortable with it, you know, it's also like the amount of work that Rudy and that Pokenav and that Pokenav's partner have done to get themselves in that position where they have an audience, where they can build something like that, where they have, you know, some distributor connections that can continue to build that. Like that takes a lot of work, and they should probably earn some money for all of that work, right? I mean, it's a job. You wouldn't expect like me to be a free therapist. I mean, maybe you would, but a lot of you would. But like, you know, it right. So there's a little bit of like, you don't want to be angry at people for like, for making money or trying to make money, as long as there's a win-win to be had. Like that's the ideal business model. Sorry, you were saying like what you were asking me, like what modern cards I like the best.
Yeah, just from an aesthetic point of view, I know we're talking about a lot about numbers. I was
Sure.
just curious, and I'm sure the chat would be interested in knowing.
Um, I think so. What cards do I like the best right now?
Like, and
Um,
it could be from any set, you know, I don't know, Sun and Moon Up or whatever.
I liked the Celebi card from Japan.
Oh, the Japanese one, yeah.
Yeah, I really liked that card. It's one of my favorite cards that's come out in a while. I think it was selling for like $80-ish for a while. I really like some of the alternative art. The alternative art Umbreon is a beautiful card. I've always really liked Umbreon. I love the moon, you know, those moon cards, and that card is a great looking card. That full art. What else do I think is like really good looking cards? I like the Galarian Moltres. I like that card. I like the Legendary Birds. In terms of just like general style, I would say the cards that I like the best right now, probably the alternative arts, but I'm not as into them as I think some people are. And I guess I just think Pokemon is going to keep making cool things. So I don't feel like I have to have those. I feel like that's the start of something that I'm glad Pokemon is doing, which is just being like more creative with their arts. And there's going to be a lot more of those to come. That's kind of how I feel. So there's no one specific art that I'm like, I have to have. I'd say that Celebi might have been the closest to a card that I just really was like, that's one that I'd actually might be willing to buy in this climate and overpay for, from my perspective. Because I just would like to have it now and enjoy it now versus waiting maybe. Um, what else? Yeah, and then going back further, I like the amazing rares. I like that design. I like I liked the chase of the gold cards when they first came out before they sort of oversaturated them. I wish that they hadn't done that with like tag team all stars and then kind of you know, and making gold card promos, because gold cards used to be like very like the rare chase card, and it was very hard to get the Pokemon one. And they were the most expensive cards. They were some of the first cards to ever sell for $200, you know, $100 to $200 out of a pack from a modern, you know, this is stuff that people don't know because the narratives and the landscape changes so much. You know, I was saying a few months ago, I was talking about Dragon Majesty, and I was like, Dragon Majesty is a set that no one ever talks about. You know, there's very little of that product, and it has that gold card, for example, in it that doesn't go for that much. And I've never heard a single person ever talk about that set or that card, you know, as long as I've been on YouTube. And it's like that card and that set, you know, definitely was underwhelming, but it was not, you know, that easy of set to find. It was pretty expensive, and it was probably a very short printed set. And it had, you know, one of the only actual chase gold cards in the hobby, one of the only gold cards that are actually difficult to pull, you know, the Ultra Necrozma. So, you know, there's a lot of like that type of stuff I think is interesting. I also like the Dragonite from that set, the promo that's in the premium box. Yeah, there's a lot of cards. I like the silver Dialga from further back. What about you? Like, what are some cards that stand out to you that you have enjoyed, you know, over the last, you know, 3-4 years, let's say, in Pokemon sets?
Yeah, I like a lot of those. I have to say, probably my favorite one recently would be that Espeon promo from the EV Gem box, from the EV Hero set. So, absolutely love that card. I really like pink. I just like the design of the card, how it looks like it's got almost that Attack on Titan-y kind of vibe to it. It's just humongous. Absolutely love that. I like half of the EV alt arts in the EV Hero set. Just absolutely gorgeous artwork on some of those old fan favorite Pokemon. I really like the. I really like the not the it wasn't the Rapid Strike one. It was the, or no, it was, no, it was the Single Strike Alt Art Urshifu from Battle Styles. Really liked that one.
Yeah.
I'm a big Alt Art fan, I would say, but I really liked the, I think it was Blastoise and Piplup, the Rainbow Rare
Hmm?
from. I'm trying to think here. Gosh, I don't know. I'm a sucker for any of
Cosmic
those.
Eclipse. I want to say it's Cosmic Eclipse, but it could have been a
I
different
was
one. Those-
I was gonna say I want it was either Cosmic Eclipse. Was it from
maybe it's
Team Up or
I
was
think
one?
it's Cosmic Eclipse.
Okay,
That's my
it was
guess.
from one of those two.
But
I
those are
know.
not sets that I'm super. I didn't open any of those sets, so I'm not. I don't know every single card in them by heart. But I think
My
it's that one.
my buddy opened up a ton, but I don't remember. Is Cosmic is someone in the comments I'm sure can let me know. But really like that card as well. So yeah, definitely the Espeon though. That's like 10 out of 10 for me. Like I don't know, nothing comes close to that one in recent memory.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. People hating on Rainbow Rares.
Do you think?
I like
I did have a question come up in all of that. Do you think they, I don't know, cut the rainbow or the amazing rares short? In your opinion, like, would you have liked to have seen more amazing rares, either from a financial point of view or from a collector's point of view?
Um, Not necessarily. I think they're kind of cool the way it is. I would have liked to have seen less Rainbow Rares. I would have liked the Rainbow Rares to stop in the Sun and Moon era. I wish they hadn't brought it into the new because I think it would have been nicer. Like I like them, but I like them as just being that part of that era. I don't like that they spread them out. And I would have liked it to stick there, just like with level X's and other sorts of things. I think that that's a better model to have sort of an era be sort of identified by a specific type of chase card, rather than kind of making it a little murkier.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I agree. I had the same take on it. I think um, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the amazing rares, maybe another set or two. But that's just 'cause I really liked them. That's just
Mm.
a personal preference, not necessarily from a financial point of view. But I just thought they were cool.
Yeah.
That will be interesting to see, though. Like I don't know, 5 years from now, what they will be doing in the market. That's something I've had some conversations with some people about, so that'll be interesting.
So I think we should probably wind down if that's all right with you, Zach. Unless there are any more questions, I can give it a second for the chat to catch up. Let's see if there are any sort of last minute questions. But otherwise, man, it's been a pleasure getting a chance to chat with you. I know we also talked a couple nights ago, so we've gotten to hang out 2 nights now. And really appreciate you just like taking the time to be here and talk Pokemon with me.
Absolutely. Yeah, likewise. It was a blast. Loved doing it. I love that we might not see totally 100% eye to eye on everything, which I don't know if there's anyone on the planet who does, but I just love like civil adult conversations about like you can disagree with someone and still be cool about everything. So I appreciate the mature conversation. I did see a question here, Epen, at the last second. I am Bobby.
Sure.
Says, Jake, what is your opinion on the long-term side of collecting full art trainer cards?
My take is a broken record on these things. Unproven. I think that before they went up, I think that they, I did, I collected them. I liked them. I've always felt, and to believe it or not, like, the like in the original vintage gym sets, I liked the holo trainers. So I'm someone who I like the trainers. I like the characters. I think that it's not just about Pokemon. It's also about these like famous trainers that have a story and that people can be connected to. I also think the design and the artwork on a lot of those cards are great. So as far as like from an investment perspective, again, it's like there are just too many variables with modern about how many more are going to be graded. I just wouldn't touch anything from an investment perspective. I think if you really like them, pick them up as long as they're in your budget and don't worry about it. So that's what I'd say. They're clearly not undiscovered. So I think a lot of them are quite a bit overvalued. If I were to have to really be honest with you, I think that, certain lilies and other sorts of things, and they've come down. They're a little bit less crazy overvalued now. But if I have to be brutally honest, I think that they're, at this current time, given the risk from a financial perspective, you'd be better off, in my opinion. The odds are you'd be better off putting it into something a little bit more vintagey, a little bit more, or already with a fully fleshed out pop report, an E series or original Nintendo EX era, Gold Star, something, maybe in Neo, something that there's probably not going to be that much supply. Study those pop reports, see how many are coming back. That's where I would put it. Or a trophy card type thing, or a Japanese sort of exclusive golden age type promo, like a, fan club or a play promo or something like that, or even like a Versus series. Or I think all of those are more established, better options.
We get it, Jake. You like waifus. No, that's what Mason said.
Jake
I like
likes the
that.
waifus. Oh yeah, big on the waifus. Um, um,
Let's see, one last one. Thoughts on first lottery card ever, real quick. Special delivery Bidoof. I thought it was nuts. I was not anticipating that kind of reaction on the market right away. I don't know who was in particular. That is not something I am investing in at all. That is way, that is super crazy in my opinion. That's I'll say. Trying to wrap this up.
yeah. No, I've heard about it, but I don't really know too much about it to speak on it. So maybe next time we come on, I can do a little research into what's going on there. I just saw pictures of it and people talking about it.
Yes.
Um,
It's going for like over $300, maybe touching $400
is it
right out of the gate, I think. Yeah.
okay? Let's take one more. We'll take this last question and then we'll end for today. Travis now says, how likely do you think Pokemon is to start reprinting sets to the point that things stay at MSRP indefinitely?
Okay, I see the comment. How likely do you think Pokemon? I mean, so again, there are multiple ways you can come at this real quick though. If I were the Pokemon company, I would want to print this stuff into the ground and capitalize on as much money as I can possibly make. That is what I would. However, the franchise is so big; they have so many things going on. We need to figure out how we can balance the new Legends of Arceus game. We need to figure out we're getting all these lawsuits from all this and that. Like, there's so many things they have to keep tabs on. They're not necessarily looking at, hey, how can we better balance the print of this? Yes, it's something that they're aware of. There are dedicated groups toward it. How likely do I think Pokemon is to start printing and reprinting sets to the point that things stay at MSRP? I don't I have no idea. 50-50. It'll either happen or it won't. That's my take.
Um, how likely, huh?
It's a good question.
All right. I mean, my usual answer is it's silly to speculate, right? Because I just have no idea. All right. I'm going to speculate. Let's speculate. I don't even know how to speculate on this. I have no idea. But all right, let me try. Let me try to answer.
Jake.
Hey, the speculating. Yeah, don't listen to any of my speculative opinions. They're worthless. That's what I will say before I start giving speculative opinions. I don't listen to my own speculative opinions. You shouldn't either. Okay, so all right, speculation. There are a lot of sets coming out right now. There are a lot of things that were probably underprinted. There might still be a lot backed up. My guess would be that they're keep designing all these cool new sets. They probably have all these alternative arts and new sets they want to release, and maybe they'll just kind of move on to the next thing instead of continuing to reprint some of these sort of middle sets. So my speculation, which is literally worthless, because I don't even I'm not a distributor, and I don't even really deal in large quantities in Modern, so I don't even have great insight into it. Would be that they probably will not reprint as much the next year as they reprinted some of the sets this year, or they might go back and reprint some of the sets this year instead of reprinting, or do a little bits of reprints across a lot of different sets rather than doing like big reprints of everything, because they just can't, to meet the demand. There are some thoughts that are not worth anything.
You're welcome. I had just one snippet to the end of that. I would much rather pay a little bit more in the future, knowing that probably won't be reprinted, never a guarantee, than pay now with a stronger probability of it being reprinted. That is my personal take. Again, a bunch of factors involved, but that's my personal philosophy.
Yeah, and for me, it's very rare that there's a set that is probably going to so outperform other sets that you really don't want to miss. And so if you miss one, there'll be another good one that you'll have more money to like invest in that one. So what I would say is if there are like these like hidden fates type sets that come out that just are that popular and that great, those might be ones that you buy into, although you might be buying it at one of the worst times if a lot of that is hype right now. So there's always counter arguments to that. It's hard to predict that beforehand. Like celebrations could be like a little bit of a bust. I mean, probably not a total bust, but it may not be humongously popular because there may not be enough cards or enough chase in it because it's a small set and there might be issues with it. And it might not be a hidden fates type success. And so, we'll have to see. But that's what I would say. So I would be, and it's just common sense, right? I'd be willing to take a little bit more price risk on a set that I think could have more of a potential of being an all-time standout type set than a set that I feel like is just another set. And there's going to be a lot more of those. Evolving Skies, for example, is a phenomenal set. It's a great set. Not necessarily the identity of the set's a little bit weak, but in terms of just like the chase cards in it, the number of cards that people want in it, it's going to be a fun set to open for a long time to chase those types of cards as long as those cards stay popular and in demand. But it's not an all-timer hidden fates. It's going to fall into that category of like Cosmic Eclipse or some of these other it was like one of the most popular or the most popular kind of normal set of that sort of small era. But there's going to be so many of those sets in the future. I would be more comfortable with a hidden fates type huge set, but Hidden Fates may not be the one because it was printed so much and there was so much popularity and the price is already high. You might have to wait for the next one that hopefully maybe people miss or people underestimate or, whatever. So that's what I would say. All right. So you guys are great for hanging out with us this whole time. We really appreciate it. If you can, leave a like on the way out, we would appreciate, I would appreciate that, help support the channel. And please subscribe as well. That really helps support the channel as well and keeps it moving forward. And if you can please take a minute after this too to subscribe to Zach's channel and thank him for just making content and the work he's putting in. When you're sort of building your channel and you're trying to get subscribers and also get past that $1,000 subscriber threshold so you can start to monetize. That's really exciting and really helpful to YouTubers in that position. So please take a minute, and it costs you nothing to help support Zach in that. And we'll all continue to kind of support each other. Any last words, Zach?
No, I love it. Thank you for that. Thank you guys for being civil in the comments. I read as much of your comments as I could. You guys are awesome. I know that there are a lot of sharp cookies in here. I appreciate that. So thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.